Hello, everyone. Please allow me to welcome Amaka Ndubisi. She's Associate Director for Africa, UK, and Ireland at IESE Business School Admissions. And we're here today to talk about how to turn your life around, how to figure out what it is that you want to do. And I thought that she would be an excellent guest today because she went through a career change that is actually very similar to mine. Both of us come from a background in the oil industry. And we turned our life around, we made a change. And today I would like to talk about her career, the changes that she made, how she was able to make them, and why did she make those choices. So allow me to welcome her. Amaka, thank you very much for making the time for me today.
Thank you, Aham. Glad to be
Um,
here.
Thank you so much. I wanted to ask, how did you get to where you are now, and what triggered the change?
Okay. How long do you want this to be? Because it could be pretty
Uh,
long, but
As long as you want. As long as you want. If
okay.
I find something interesting, I'll ask of you to highlight,
Yeah, feel
perhaps.
free to interrupt me then on
Thank you.
then.
Go
Okay,
ahead,
very good.
please.
All right. So I studied computer engineering in my undergrad. I studied engineering because I grew up sort of a tomboy. I grew up tinkering with things. And so engineering was a natural course of action to take. And so I finished school, went right into work. I started with Schlumberger, as you mentioned, all like right after graduation. Now, Schlumberger is an oil servicing company and that focused on drilling operations and exploration and production. But I was in the real time support part of the company. So I started with doing telecommunications, installing VSATs, real time communication, but I wanted to get in the core operations of the
Okay.
company. And so about 3 years, I switched into drilling. I joined the MWD, what we call
It's
MWD,
a
which
lot
is
of
measurements while drilling.
it's a lot of pressure, right? It's a lot of pressure on your life. That kind of work.
It is. It is. But it was good pressure. I mean, I was young. I had a lot of energy. I was excited to be in the core of the operations. Like it was really cool to be like a field engineer, wear your
Yeah.
coverall and how that. So it was exciting, I liked it. And then going offshore, being the only woman on the with a lot of men. So I found all that very stimulating.
Okay.
I wished into that. Yeah. And then
Um,
I did that for about 2 years. Yeah.
for 2 years.
Yeah. So drilling, I was the MWD, LWD for about 2 years. And then I returned to the office.
Okay.
Okay.
And from there, when did you start thinking that, okay, I want to change? Um, this is not enough.
Yeah, like want to change from drilling or want to change totally from the oil and gas industry?
I guess not only the oil and gas industry or drilling, but for example, like this is really funny. When I was actually in the oil industry, before that I was in telecom, then I switched to the oil industry. It's a very funny path that I took. One of the main reasons that I wanted to change was maybe it wasn't as directed or it wasn't as clear. I was extremely stressed. I don't know if you had that problem. I suffered from anxiety where I used to imagine my phone ringing because we were on call all the time. So I sometimes imagine my phone ringing because someone's going to tell me like, hey, you have to go to the field. So that is one reason why I wanted to make a change. The other reason that I wanted to make a change
Okay.
was also professionally related. I thought, okay, this is not enough. This is too technical. It's really nice money. It's really good money, but I don't see myself doing this for a very long time. And
For a
so it's
long
not
time.
only,
Yeah.
it wasn't a very directed decision where I knew exactly what I wanted to do in life. It was something that I just knew that this is not where I wanted to be. I was extremely stressed. And then from there, I thought I have to make a change. And so for you,
Mm.
was there something that was only related to the fact that I'm extremely clear about what I want to do in my life? I like this job, but now I want to fill another missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I think careers in Nigeria were largely determined by economic factors. Okay, you wanted to
Okay.
get a job that paid well, that paid the most, and so you could study zoology and or biochemistry and end up working in a bank because the bank paid a
Okay.
lot more.
A lot
So
more.
I
Okay.
went into yeah. Yeah, so my oil and gas careers, that's like the telecommunications, it was in line with my field, but then also it was good because it paid, the remuneration was good. But I realized that with the drilling operations, it paid even more. And then and and then you were like in the, so the opportunity for growth was a lot more, and you were in the core of the company operations. So there was this paid more. This also helped me to grow faster in the company, and so that was why I did that. And but then I did it for 2 years, and I returned to the office as a petrophysicist because I realized that it was I liked field operations, but
Okay.
it wasn't mentally stimulating. It was
Okay.
more very much a hands-on work, and I wanted something that was
Okay.
a lot more mentally stimulating. So you think about this. At that point in my career, I was still very young. I started working at 21. So I didn't quite have a clarity on this is what I want to. I was figuring things out as I went along.
Okay.
Uh, so I was figuring out more from what I didn't like. So I knew that, okay, I wanted to be more in the company operations, and I knew I wanted something that was both mentally challenging and
Okay.
also uh, financially rewarding. So I returned to the office. But at this time, I had now spent about 11 years in total. I moved
Okay.
countries, I moved different jobs. And then I realized that, and I mean, this was also at a time that there was a lot of the oil price drop in the industry
Okay.
caused a lot of job loss. Okay, Schlumberger was one company that was so very fast to fire. The second that,
Okay.
yeah, the oil
They
price
sensed a
went
lot of
down.
trouble.
So
Yeah. So
yeah,
did
so
you lose your job, or you sensed some threat, so you decided to preempt and make a change?
no, actually, I didn't. So I was in a team of about 12 person, and we went down from 12 to 3. I was one of the 3 that stayed. So I didn't lose my job, but I was coming to the office every day to see empty seats. And there
Okay.
was that thing about you could get cold at any time. It was just, well, at this point I knew that I was sort of safe because there were only 3 of us. They needed to shut down the team if they had to fire us.
Yeah.
But then there was a lot of, it was sad. Like I had colleagues and these were my friends. And I said, I don't want to be in an industry where I'm very dispensable.
Yes.
My colleagues that got fired, it was just that they were at work one day, the next day they couldn't log into the office anymore.
Yeah.
So I was
I
like,
had
this
that
this is
feeling.
this
It's
transactional.
so interesting. It's so interesting. I mean, it does exist in a lot of industries. I felt it was very
Yeah.
cutthroat, and I had a lot of camaraderie with my coworkers, but I didn't feel that when I'm thinking about the company as a whole. I mean, I didn't work for Schlumberger. I worked for Baker Hughes, and
Yeah.
I didn't feel that they had my back. It was a great company. If you're good, they allow you to grow. But when 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 things go south, I think there's a lot of kind of ruthlessness in what they do. And I felt that there was a lot of blame
Yeah.
culture. That is something that I didn't really
Yeah.
like. Whenever there was a failure, there was a blame culture. And so you're right.
Yeah.
It was very cutthroat. And I thought, wow, this is too hostile. And despite the
Yeah.
positives,
Yeah.
there were a lot of things that didn't make me feel like I belong. And so I thought I want to make that change. Um, so I guess along
Yeah.
those lines, you thought, okay, I'm one of 3 left. What do I do?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So I said, I thought that, as you said, like, there was very much a cover your ass. That's what we call the
Yes,
CYA, that all
yes,
places.
CYA. I
And
remember.
yeah, it was CYA. Like, and I mean, I didn't have any other work experience because all my career then was only Schlumberger. But I just felt like this is not what work should be. Like, it shouldn't
Yeah,
just be always about like it coming from a reactive angle or being anxious. Or and then I was still in touch with my colleagues that got fired, and then some of them started on like really interesting jobs. And I felt like, okay, how do I get into another industry? How do I get in anywhere else? And I just felt very much boxed in because all my time had been very technical.
yeah.
I felt I didn't have like a lot of skills to other industries. And so
That's very true.
that
It's
was when
not
I started
very
thinking, I
you're
guess,
absolutely right. It's not very transferable. like like whatever it is that we did was it was high, it was very technical. But it was so focused on the industry that I worried, okay, how do I transfer this technical skill to another industry? And I didn't really find a way. I thought it was only focused on this industry. I mean, you become really
Yeah.
tough. You become really good at organizing priorities. You become really good at organizing a team out in the open.
Hmm.
But I felt like that particular technical skill, how do I translate it to another industry? And like, for example, a programmer, I think that kind of a skill transfers to different industries. I mean, maybe now with some
Yeah.
exceptions or things are getting more risky with AI, but that is another reason why I thought, you know what, I really need to make a change.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was very much the case here. Like, I didn't even know that the soft skills were also as valuable. Like typically I would just consider skills as being able to do the core operations of the
Yeah.
company. And then all I had, I could use petrol, I could use joke frame, but I'm like, outside of the oil and gas, nobody cares
Who
about this
cares?
about the
Yes.
software. Who cares? So I was like, okay, this is not gonna be very functional. It took eventually, of course, over time doing the MBA and working, I realized that there were a lot of latent skills, like what you just mentioned, organizational skills, prioritizing, decision making, that came from, those series of operations that I did in Schlumberger, but I didn't know this at this time. So uh, I said, okay, we need to do something different. I was lucky. I had friends that, I had a friend, a lawyer that was very much well versed in the business world. So he was the first person that suggested doing an MBA to me.
Okay.
And initially, yeah, I was skeptical because I was like, well, you don't work for oil and gas in Nigeria and then go do an MBA. Like, I didn't know anybody that had in my industry or in my company that
Who
had
made that change?
gone to an MBA. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is gonna work. But he was very helpful. But when I started doing my research, that was when I realized there actually had been people that had done this, but they had gone out of my radar because they went out, they went into a whole new industry, a whole new
Yeah.
people. So I lost touch with them. So it was when I started researching that I found a couple people that were now doing really cool stuff. I'm like, I can totally do this. Why, like,
Okay.
why didn't I think this was possible before? Yeah. So
So would you say that you decided that, okay, wait a minute, this thing is legitimate. This is something that I can do when you saw someone who had your path, who actually went down that path. So for you seeing or knowing someone or
yes,
being associated with someone who had a similar background, you decided that maybe this is something that I can do.
exactly, totally.
Uh,
So I didn't before I saw anybody, I kept telling him that I studied engineering. I did business. I'm not a business person. I'm going to stick to my engineering and core.
Yeah.
And then he was the one that opened my eyes to people that had careers or had started brought their careers in business, in engineering, in
Yeah.
technical, and eventually now went into business. So it took seeing someone that had done it before to be encouraged that, okay, it was a feasible part for me as well.
When
Yeah.
I started to like when I started my MBA in 2010, 2010. So that was a while back. And I
Mm. Yeah.
began researching, figuring out um, what is it that I can do to change my career. I wanted to make a really drastic change, and I didn't really quite know what to do. And so I'd say that back then compared to now, I'm thinking about how is it easier now to figure out what to do and harder compared to at a time when I wanted to make a change versus when you wanted to make a change. And I guess the purpose of that is to help
Yeah.
someone who's struggling to know what to do, how to make a decision. Because for example, it might be that information is more accessible. I mean, now it's a lot easier to figure out what is an MBA, what can I do, what are the options that are
Yeah.
available to me. But also the disadvantage is that there's too much information. So when I was looking into this, so 2007, maybe 2008, when I began thinking, okay, what change can I make? Information was not as accessible. I mean, YouTube wasn't
Yeah.
as prevalent now as a source of information, and things were a lot more foreign. And back then,
Yeah.
you really had to like when I heard MBA and I thought, what is this? I don't want to study business.
Yeah.
What is the
Yeah. That
value of
was
what is
me.
the you know what I mean? So I'd say like now
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's easier in a way to figure out what to do, but it's also there's just so much information that it's very difficult to know what is legitimate, what is not. I go on, for example, ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever chatbots are available now, and you ask it a question, and there's just a barrage of information. So it's an advantage. There's a lot of information, but then there's also too much information. So if there's someone out there who's
Yeah.
struggling to manage and to know what should I agree with, what should I disagree with, what is legitimate information, what is not legitimate information, how can I make a decision? What kind of advice do
Mm,
you think
yeah.
you would give?
Yeah. No, everything you said, I think it was applicable to me, even though like we did this research at different times. You were 2010 and I was 2018. But also because of where I was based, I was working in Nigeria then. The information there was also not so much information. So I was fortunate that I had good people that were well versed, like expert people that had done the research themselves, and they
Yeah.
were just giving me what they had already shared, what they had already gathered. So there was my friend KK, and then there was also my mentor, Franca, who helped me a lot. Now, so coming back to what you just said about the people now that now they don't have just two-person system, they have a ton of information. I think that what will help is being able to the quick browse through on what is available, but then sitting down to narrow down on what is important and then using that as a criteria to research deeper. Let me explain. Like I'm doing first right now in the US, and many of the candidates, so it's MDA, they come to talk to different schools. And there are a lot of these things that happen in different parts of the world. So people can attend fairs on different events. It could be a master's or MBA or even something else in career. But getting just general information, that's the baseline. But afterwards, the person will have to do the work to filter, like figure out. I think in speaking to people, speaking to alumni, speaking to people that have done this, then you need to draft out like these are the three things that are important or four that are non-negotiables and very important. And then you use that as the lens through which you process all the rest of the information you're gathering. Otherwise, you'll be flooded with much information. It will be overwhelming, and you won't move forward, and you have too much on your hands. So
Do you? Yeah, go ahead.
well, no, no, just I'm trying to like crystallize my thoughts. I think first things or the steps to take will be read wide, do a general seeking browsing, and then find people to speak to. And then the next step will be filter down to two, three, four criteria, three things that are super important through which you will now do further research on what you want to do. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. You said something really interesting. You talked about your mentor. Um,
Yeah.
that is actually one I kind of think of how when I think back about how I could have done things better, and that is something that I wasn't really alert to, and I thought, wow, I wish I had someone who I looked up to as a mentor, or more than one mentor. And so I think that is a really interesting point
Yeah.
that you mentioned. And what's so interesting is that it all comes down to a people. Ultimately, when you want to make a decision, you always want the human connection where you need someone
Yes.
who you have something in common with to tell you that yes, indeed, that is the path that maybe you can take. You need that element of trust. And it's so interesting now when I also think about as far as what I do and being involved in test prep and ed tech, where a lot of people they rely on ChatGPT to understand or to know what are the options available. But in the end, ultimately, you
Yeah.
always want a human, that interaction with someone that you
Of
trust
course.
to tell you, you know what? Yes, perhaps that is a path
Yeah.
that you can take. But that is certainly something that I wish I was wise enough to have. I mean, unlike you, I wasn't wise enough
Yeah.
to really rely on mentors. I had a few friends who were ahead of me who took that path, and I asked questions. But it really is always ultimately someone telling me, "Hey, maybe you have to take this. Maybe you have to do that." And so there's always going to be. I think what's kind of refreshing is that even though we do feel this threat of artificial intelligence, we're always going to have to rely on a human connection because we just need trust. I need someone like me to tell me maybe that is
Exactly.
a path that you can take. But mentors is really a big thing. That is one thing I really learned. One of the good things from the MBA. I thought,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, I was really good technically, but from an aspect of people skills, it was really dulled down when I
Yeah.
was in the oil industry because I was always in the field and you always deal with people who are very similar to you. So I thought that was one thing that I
Yeah.
thought, wow, it really opened up my my eyes to other ways of being professions. You can do this, you can do that. When I started,
Yeah.
when I began the MBA, I had the idea of going from where I was, which was service, to maybe working in a company like Shell or British Petroleum. But then I took off. I took a completely
Yeah.
different path. I took a completely different
Yeah.
path because the 2 years at the MBA they opened my eyes to a different reality that I couldn't have seen otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my
Mm-hmm.
next question to you is, what you thought you were going to experience during the MBA and post MBA, was it completely different from what you had in mind? And how do you think it changed your life? It's a big
Okay.
question.
So what I wanted versus what I eventually landed in, right?
Yes. And how do you think it influenced your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's a good question. But just before I enter that, on the mentors thing, I think you said like having more than one mentor. I totally agree. I was fortunate. I had one mentor. I mean, that was pre MBA, but since the MBA, I've I've added two more persons to it because I've seen the value. Like it's been
Yeah.
so very helpful. And yeah, I've been also very intentional in like selecting my mentors, making sure that they are people way, way ahead of me and that have walked a path that I quite admire, that I see
Yeah.
myself working. And then in talking to them, yeah. So AI
It's
is
very
never going to
wise.
replace that.
It's very wise. It's very wise. I think, I don't know if it's something that is in tutoring, I always find it so interesting. I don't know if it's related, but I always find that women are a lot wiser. They're always more open to accepting advice. Um, I, I, I wish
That's
that
a
is
lot of
something.
credit you're giving us.
I wish,
But
but I
yeah.
mean, I think men are like more on kind of like on a path to prove something. And I think that women seem to like be wiser in accepting advice from other people. They're opening to listening. So I think that's really interesting.
Mm,
The
mm,
fact that
mm.
you were
Me
very
too.
aware that I want mentors. This is what I want. That's one person who's doing that. I'm going to ask their advice. I think it's a very important
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know about the wiser part though, but okay. So to answer the question on what I wanted versus what I mentioned, I'll say, okay, I started out not knowing what I wanted. I just knew that I wanted to get out of the oil industry. Okay. And so the people that I spoke to, everybody said consulting was the path. If you don't know what if you don't have it clear what you want to do, you should just think of consulting. So
Consulting. Yeah.
um, exactly. So I was like, okay, I think I want to stay in the oil and gas. It's the safe industry. I already know how it works, but I want to stay work with the producers. So similar to you, I was saying I'm gonna end up in Statoil now.
Yeah.
Equinor. Let me go to the Nordics, have a very good life, or Shell and the rest of them. But then if I wanted to actually explore, do something different, and I didn't know what else was out there, consulting was what I wanted to do. So I came to ESA. Of course, there's always, I don't know what happened. I don't know if this was the same in your year, but in my year, it felt like because consulting was one of the first industries to hire, everybody started doing consulting prep. So I went right in with the consulting prep. My
Yeah.
competitive self just plunged me right into it. Yeah, everybody's doing it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna excel at it. So I did
The case
consulting prep. I
interviews.
did
Okay.
consulting. Yes. And it was good. I mean, I got the MBB interviews. I flunked all of them because I didn't do good prep. I eventually ended up interning with HP. I got internship with different companies. I got with Uber, I
Yeah.
got with HP, I got with a fintech in Nigeria, but I decided to take the HP because I wanted to stay
Yeah.
in Barcelona.
Same. I
But
got one with
ultimately,
I got one with
yeah,
BP,
sorry,
but
go
in the end
ahead.
I didn't take it. I didn't take it. I my internship. I got one
Ah,
with BP, but in the end I changed my mind. I'm like, no, 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 I don't want this. I don't want
we're
this.
not
So
doing
I
all like gas anymore. Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I
Nice.
mean, kind of the same
So,
path.
yeah, I did. So after my internship, I did marketing because the second term marketing in first year was so intriguing and interesting. I loved how the professor just took marketing to a whole new level for me. Honestly, before the MBA, I had a very, very naive understanding of marketing. Marketing for me was just going to knock on people's doors to buy stuff. So it was the MBA that showed me a whole lot more. So I fell in
True.
love with that, and that was why I did the marketing for my internship.
I
But
always say
after the
I
MBA,
that's sorry, but I always say like I wish I paid
yeah,
more attention in marketing. You're absolutely correct. It's a fascinating field.
really, it,
Yes, that's
it
very
is.
true.
It
Sorry to
is. It
interrupt
brings
you. Go
so
ahead.
many things together. No, no, it's okay. Data analytics, human behavior, like because understanding the customer preferences, knowing how to tap into it, it's a very wide field. That yeah, I really maybe I might go into marketing someday later. Okay, so post MBA, or rather during the MBA second year after the marketing, I still went back on the consulting prep. And then I got a consulting job. I got first with Kenny, and then later I got Accenture much later in the years. But then COVID happened. So COVID redefined everything, right? Also, like during the MBA, there were a lot of there were a couple things that happened that made me realize, okay, this is the path I really want to go, but I still need consulting as a bridge to get there. So I realized that I am more of a that I want to work in multilaterals. I want to understand a little bit more about policy making and basically how to work with private and public partnerships. Because ultimately, until today, I want to go back to Nigeria and work in the Nigerian
Okay.
educational system and help to make it better. Because
Okay.
my dad was in education. My dad was a professor in school, and my dad died during the MBA. So I said,
Wow. I'm very
this
sorry. I
man
didn't
gave
know.
his life to education. No, it's okay. Gave his life for education. I want to follow his path. I want to do the same thing. So that was what got me on. Okay, I want to do something in education, and I want to learn how things work in terms of the policy setting making part, so that
Okay.
eventually when I go back, I have something relevant to contribute. So that was how my interest in education came. But applying it straight from oil and gas MBA to education was just not working. It wasn't cutting it. So I said, okay, maybe we will do this and do consulting and use consulting as the pivot into that.
And an
So
entry
that was
point.
how yeah, as an entry point into that. So I started first with a boutique consulting firm in Barcelona after the MBA and after MBA and COVID. Uh, so even though in terms of was this what I wanted when I started out? I would say yes, but for different reasons. I wanted consulting when I started out because I didn't know what else was there. But eventually I went into consulting, but knowing that I wanted to use it as a bridge. I don't know if
Yeah,
that makes sense. So
I
same
understand.
industry, but different purposes. Yeah.
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 It's such a good point because a lot of people, I think that's a really interesting point because you have this, you hear the advice of follow your passion no matter what. And I think you, you kind of helped answer or qualify the answer to that question where maybe, but you have to be smart about it. Um, and if you can't really get to the passion or whatever it is that you want to ultimately do in life, maybe you have to just take
Yeah.
a few side steps. And as you say, I like the expression that you use, the word to breach. That is a goal that I have, but maybe I can't get it now. Perhaps I have to take a side step, or
Mhm.
I have to do um, 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 an intermediate goal before I get to the ultimate goal. So I think it's really you went about it in a very smart way. Um,
Yeah.
so I would say that maybe the last question that I want to ask you, and then I'll let you go, is if you have some piece of advice for someone who's struggling to they're not happy with where they are and they feel the urgency to just do whatever it is that comes next. What kind of advice would you provide? What is the first thing that they have to do?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that there's a whole lot that we get from speaking to people that have done something different, that have just taken that plunge, had the courage to make a change, to make a move, to go into something totally different. Because typically when we are, I feel like when we feel stuck where we are, that we are not changing, we're not happy with where we are at, there's also another nagging fear that, but oh, maybe it's not going to be better out there. Grass is always green on the other side. Don't venture out. So there's also a fear that holds us back. Like, just stay with what you have, even if you're not happy. Other people are not happy too. So it takes like talking to other people that have been bold enough to make a move to help yourself see that you can do it. Okay. So talk to people. And then I feel like life is all about figuring out. I
Yes.
I know that there are a lot of people that have it claim the day they were born that they were supposed to do this, but that's the majority of the people. Many
Yeah.
of
That
us
wasn't me
are
for
still
certainly.
figuring things out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of us are still figuring it out still now. And I know people in their 50s and 60s that are also still figuring it out. So it's okay not to have like the clear pieces of the puzzle all set, like, oh, this is here how it's gonna work out. So not like, I think that people should be able, like, in knowing that, know that they can make a move, they can take a bold step and change and do something different. And even if it doesn't work out, it's okay. It's part of the figuring out.
Yeah.
But rather than just taking something that you're not happy with just because you're afraid of making that move. Yeah. I spoke to candidates in the DC Fed, and one of them said, I want to do an online program because I don't want to leave my job. I really enjoy what I'm doing. No, she said, I don't really enjoy what I'm doing, but it's safe job and it pays well. So I'm not keen on leaving it yet. So I want to stay around. I said, okay, when next in your life are you going to have the chance to just up and do something different? Then if you have dependencies, if you have a family, you have kids to take care of, then it becomes a lot weightier.
Becomes
But if it's
difficult
just you by yourself, when next are you going to have the chance to just up and do something entirely different? It's probably never going to happen.
and
So
make a
why not
change.
now? And
Yeah.
if yeah, and if you do it and eventually, well, you don't get the best job that you wanted, or you still land back in the same job, you would have added a lot to your personal development that you would never have gotten if you just stayed put where you are at. So yeah, it's just be willing to take a chance, even if it's, yeah, outrageous, but be willing to
I
take a
really,
chance. I don't
I
know. I know this
really,
is sounds so
but
big, but
I
hopefully
think
so.
it's good advice. I think it's really good advice. What I'd say that the conclusion of your advice is to be bold, be brave, ask people for help, and it's okay if
Yeah,
you fail.
yeah,
It's okay if you fail. So be bold, ask
exactly,
for help,
exactly.
and don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, totally. That's it. You said it in better words, actually.
Amaka, thank you so much for your time today. It was really helpful, and I hope we get to do this again soon.